The alarm systems in the Galactic Communications Hub had not sounded in over 300 years. When they began their piercing wail at 0400 station time, most of the night shift staff assumed it was a malfunction. They were wrong. Senior Communications Officer Talrix was the first to notice the pattern. The screens that normally flickered with thousands of data streams from Earth showed nothing but empty static. She checked the systems twice, then 3 times, her 4 hands moving rapidly across the control panels. Every channel from humanity's homeworld had gone completely silent. "Run diagnostics," she ordered her assistant, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. In her 40 years of service, she had never seen a complete blackout from any member species. Technical problems happened, sure, but not like this. Not everything at once. The diagnostics came back clean. The problem was not on their end. By 0600, the station commander had been woken. By 0800, the Galactic Council had been notified. By midday, Ambassador Threlson stood in the main communications chamber, his scales shifting through worried shades of blue and gray as he studied the silent screens. Perhaps their son experienced a solar flare, suggested Council member Jorvix, a floating jellyfish-like being whose translator rendered her voice in calm, measured tones. The humans are still young. Their shielding technology may have failed across their system. Threlson did not respond immediately. He was too busy pulling up additional data streams. His clawed fingers moved across the holographic interface, opening channel after channel. His heart sank with each one. "It is not just Earth," he said quietly. "Look." The other council members leaned closer. The screens showed the status of human colonies across dozens of star systems. New Mars, Proxima Station. The mining operations in the Kepler Belt. The research outposts on Tau Ceti. The massive shipyards orbiting Epsilon Eridani. Every single installation showed the same thing: complete communications blackout. 40 billion humans, Threlson whispered. All silent. All at the same time. The council chamber erupted into debate. Some argued for immediate military response, suggesting an unknown enemy had attacked humanity. Others claimed the humans had simply experienced some kind of technological cascade failure. A few suggested the humans might have cut themselves off deliberately, perhaps due to some internal political crisis. Only Threlson remained silent, studying the data with growing dread. He had worked with humans for 20 years. He knew them better than most council members. Humans were loud, chaotic, and endlessly communicative. They broadcast everything: news, entertainment, personal messages, scientific data, commercial advertisements. Human space was normally the noisiest sector in the entire galaxy. For all of it to go silent at once was not a malfunction. It was impossible. "We need to send a team," he finally said, interrupting the arguments echoing through the chamber. "We need to see what has happened with our own eyes." The council debated for another 6 hours before finally agreeing. A reconnaissance mission would be dispatched to the Sol system. Captain Zix of the Vexlar Concordat volunteered to lead it. She was a veteran explorer, someone who had mapped dozens of systems and made first contact with 3 species. If anyone could uncover the truth, it was her. Her ship, the Wandering Star, departed 30 hours after Earth went silent. The journey to Sol would take 4 days through faster-than-light travel. Those 4 days felt like an eternity to everyone waiting at the communications hub. Threlson did not leave the station. He stayed in the communications chamber, watching the silent screens, hoping desperately to see even a flicker of signal. None came. He began reviewing old transmissions from Earth, trying to find any hint of what might have happened. The last broadcast seemed completely normal. News about a sports championship on Mars, a commercial for vacation trips to Europa, a science program discussing new telescope discoveries. Nothing unusual, nothing that suggested 40 billion people were about to vanish. When the Wandering Star finally emerged from FTL at the edge of the Sol system, Captain Zix immediately noticed something wrong. Her scanning officer, a young Krelian named Voss, reported the readings with confusion in his voice. "Captain, I am detecting power signatures throughout the system. Stations are operational. Ships are in orbit. But I am detecting no life signs. None at all." Zix felt her blood chill. "Scan again. Expand the range." Voss worked quickly, his tentacles flying across his console. "Scanning Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt. Captain, every human installation is active. Lights are on, power flowing, automated systems running. But there are no humans anywhere. Not on the planets, not on the stations, not on any ships." The bridge fell into stunned silence. "Take us to Earth," Zix ordered quietly. As they approached humanity's homeworld, the wrongness of the situation became even more apparent. Earth looked perfect from orbit. The blue oceans, the green and brown continents, the white swirl of clouds. Cities glittered with artificial light on the night side. Satellites orbited in their proper positions. Everything looked exactly as it should, except the planet was empty. They descended toward New York, one of humanity's largest cities. The wandering star settled into a landing zone near the city center. Through the viewports, the crew could see streets filled with vehicles, buildings with lights in their windows, advertising screens still playing their endless loops. But no people. Zix led a landing team into the city. They walked through streets that should have been crowded with millions. Instead, they found only eerie stillness. In a restaurant, they discovered tables set with food that had long since gone cold. In an apartment building, they found homes that looked lived in, with personal belongings scattered about but no occupants. "It is like they all just disappeared," said Voss, his voice barely above a whisper, in the middle of whatever they were doing. All at once. They explored for hours, moving from city to city. Tokyo, London, Mumbai, São Paulo. Every location told the same impossible story. The humans had simply vanished without a trace. As the sun set on their first day exploring Earth, Zix stood on a balcony overlooking Central Park. The trees swayed in the evening breeze. Birds sang in the branches. The automated systems kept the city running as if nothing was wrong, but the silence of human voices was deafening. "Captain," Voss called from inside the building. "I found something. A transmission beacon. It is still active deep underground, Antarctica." Zix turned sharply. "Can you trace it?" "Yes, Captain. It appears to be a military installation. Very classified. The signal is faint but repeating." Zix felt a surge of hope. Finally something to investigate. Some clue to this impossible mystery. "Prepare the ship," she ordered. "We leave for Antarctica immediately." As the wandering star lifted off from the empty city, Zix could not shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something terrible. Something that went far beyond the mystery of Earth's silence. In the empty streets below, the automated systems continued their programmed tasks. Traffic lights changed colors for vehicles that would never come. Street lights flickered on to illuminate sidewalks no one would walk. And in the sky above, the stars shone down on a planet that had somehow lost all its people in the span of a single moment. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's silence was not a mystery to be solved. It was a warning. The Antarctic base was buried under 3 kilometers of ice. The wandering star's scanners had taken hours to map the facility, revealing a complex that stretched for dozens of kilometers in every direction. Whatever the humans had built here, they had wanted it hidden from the galaxy. Captain Zix stood in the landing bay as her crew prepared to drill down to the entrance. The wind howled across the frozen wasteland, and even through her environmental suit she could feel the bitter cold of Earth's South Pole. "How long?" she asked her chief engineer. 2 hours to reach the main entrance, Captain. The ice is thick, but our equipment can handle it." 2 hours felt like an eternity. Zix paced the landing bay, her mind racing with possibilities. What had the humans been doing down here? Why had they kept this base so secret? And most importantly, what had happened to make them all disappear? When the drilling finally finished, Zix led her team down into the darkness. The tunnel walls were smooth and cold, lit only by their portable lights. At the bottom, they found a massive steel door with human writing etched across its surface. Voss translated, "Northern Lights Deep Research Facility. Authorized personnel only." The door was unlocked. It slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor beyond that stretched into the distance. Emergency lights flickered along the ceiling, casting everything in a dim red glow. Inside, the facility was massive. They walked through corridors lined with laboratories, server rooms, and living quarters. Like everywhere else on Earth, it appeared the humans had simply vanished in the middle of their work. Computer screens still displayed data. Coffee cups sat on desks. A jacket hung on a chair, but no humans remained. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Taryn, the team's science officer. She stood in front of a large room filled with computers and display screens. The screens showed star charts, equations, and data streams that Zix did not recognize. "What am I looking at?" Zix asked. Taryn's expression was grim. The humans were tracking something. "Look at this." She manipulated one of the displays, bringing up a map of the galaxy. A red line traced from the outer edge, moving inward toward the core. They detected this approximately 3 months ago. Some kind of energy wave moving through space. A wave? Zix moved closer to the screen. What kind of wave? I am not certain yet. But Captain, look at the speed. It is moving at approximately 3% of light speed. That should be impossible for any natural phenomenon of this size. Zix felt her skin prickle with unease. How large is it? Taryn adjusted the display again. The scale changed and Zix felt her breath catch. The wave was not a localized phenomenon. It stretched across hundreds of light years, consuming everything in its path. Where is it now? Zix asked quietly. Taryn's hands trembled as she worked the controls. If the human calculations are correct, it should be approximately 7 light years from the outer edge of explored space. Moving inward toward the galactic core. 7 light years, Zix repeated. That means in less than 200 years it will reach the core worlds, including the Galactic Council homeworlds. The team stood in stunned silence. 200 years sounded like a long time, but on a galactic scale it was nothing. Most civilizations needed decades just to make major political decisions. There has to be more, Zix said. The humans did not just detect this thing and then vanish. Keep searching. They split up, each team member taking different sections of the facility. Voss found the living quarters where he discovered personal logs from the scientists who had worked here. Taryn dove into the research databases, downloading everything she could find. Zix herself searched for the command center. She found it deep in the heart of the facility. The command center was a circular room with a massive holographic display in the center. Around it, dozens of computer stations sat silent and dark, but one station still glowed with active displays. Zix approached it carefully. The screen showed a communication interface and a message waited in the outbox. A message that had been sent the day Earth went silent. She activated the playback. A woman appeared in the hologram, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes red from crying. She wore a military uniform with insignia that Zix recognized as belonging to Earth's United Defense Force. The woman looked exhausted, as if she had not slept in days. To whoever finds this, the woman began, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Northern Lights Project. If you are watching this, then you have discovered Earth is empty. I am sorry we could not tell you the truth. I am sorry we did not have more time. Chen paused, taking a deep breath. 3 months ago, we detected an anomaly approaching from the galactic edge. We thought at first it was a measurement error. Then we thought it might be a natural phenomenon. But as we gathered more data, we realized the truth. The wave is not natural. It is a vacuum decay event. Zix felt her blood turn to ice. Vacuum decay was a theoretical catastrophe that physicists had discussed for centuries. The idea that the quantum vacuum state of the universe could transition to a lower energy state, destroying everything in its path. Most scientists considered it purely theoretical, something that might happen in trillions of years if it happened at all. Our calculations show the wave will reach this sector in 56 days, Chen continued. We spent weeks trying to find a way to stop it or deflect it. But vacuum decay cannot be stopped. Once it starts, it propagates at near light speed until it consumes everything. The laws of physics themselves change within the wave. Matter, energy, time, space, all of it breaks down. The Admiral's voice cracked slightly. We realized we had 2 choices. We could tell the galaxy and watch as panic destroyed civilization faster than the wave ever would, or we could try to save as many as possible. We chose the latter. Chen gestured off-screen and the hologram shifted to show massive construction projects. Hundreds of enormous ships being built in secret, strange technology being assembled in hidden facilities. For the past 2 months, we have been implementing Protocol Exodus. We evacuated every human from every world, 40 billion people. We moved them in secret, using every ship we had, every transport, every vessel we could build. We could not tell you because we knew the panic would spread. We knew other species would try to stop us, to take our ships, to demand we save them first. And we did not have time for politics. The image returned to Admiral Chen's face. We have left behind everything we have learned about the wave. All our research, all our data. We have left coordinates for safe evacuation vectors that lead away from the wave's path. And we have left one more thing. Chen's expression hardened with determination. We found something during our research. Evidence that this has happened before. Evidence that some civilizations survived. We do not know how yet, but we are going to find out. And if we do, if we find a way to survive this, we will come back for you. All of you. The Admiral stood straighter, her military bearing returning. To the Galactic Council, to all the species we called friends and neighbors, we are sorry. We are sorry we had to leave without saying goodbye. We are sorry we could not save everyone, but we did what we had to do to give our species a chance. We hope you will understand. We hope you will survive, and we hope we will see you again. The message ended. The screen went dark. Zix stood frozen, Chen's words echoing in her mind. 56 days. The Admiral had said 56 days. But that message was sent a week ago, which meant 49 days, Zix whispered. We have 49 days. She activated her communicator with shaking hands. All teams return to the ship immediately. We need to get this information to the Council. Now. As they raced back through the frozen corridors, Zix's mind reeled with the implications. The humans had evacuated 40 billion people in secret. They had detected the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced and chosen to save themselves, rather than cause panic. And somewhere out there, humanity was searching for a way to survive the unsurvivable. The galaxy was going to learn that Earth went silent, not because humanity was destroyed, but because humanity was trying to survive, and they had less than 7 weeks to figure out how to do the same. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 47 member species packed the space, along with observers, military leaders, and scientific advisors. The air thrummed with a dozen different translation devices working overtime, turning panicked voices into a chaos of overlapping sound. Ambassador Threlkson stood at the central podium waiting for silence. When none came, he slammed his fist down on the control panel, and the sharp bang of sound echoed through the chamber. The crowd quieted. We have 42 days, Threlkson said simply. His voice was steady, but his scales had lost all color. Captain Zix's team has confirmed the human data. The vacuum decay wave is real. It is approaching. And when it arrives, everything in its path will cease to exist. The chamber erupted again. Voices screamed questions, accusations, demands. Counselor Morvex of the Altarian Collective pointed an accusing tentacle at Threlkson. The humans knew about this for months. They saved themselves and left us to die. This is an act of war. The humans saved themselves because they knew we would do exactly this. Threlkson shouted back. They knew we would spend weeks arguing about who deserved to be saved first while the wave approached. They knew our bureaucracies would drown any action in procedure and debate. And they were right. The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. Everyone knew he was correct. Even now, with death approaching, the species of the galaxy could barely agree on anything. Captain Zix stepped forward. She looked exhausted from days of travel, but her voice was clear. The humans left us everything they learned. All their research on the wave. All their evacuation protocols. And more than that, they left us technology. She activated the holographic display, and images filled the air above the council floor. Massive gate structures, suspended animation pods, quantum computing arrays. These are the plans for what the humans called quantum fold transport gates, Zix explained. They can move thousands of people instantly across vast distances. The humans built dozens of them in secret to evacuate their population. The plans are complete. Any civilization with advanced manufacturing capability can build them. How long would it take? Asked Speaker Vornix, a reptilian being who led the Draconian assembly. According to the human documentation, approximately 3 weeks if we dedicate all resources to construction. But that is only the beginning. We would still need to decide where to go, how to coordinate 47 different species, how to prioritize who goes first. My people will go first, demanded Councillor Trevix of the Kelsian Empire. We have the largest population and the most advanced civilization. We have priority. Your people will wait their turn like everyone else, snapped Representative Kylix of the Arachnid Confederation. This is a crisis for all species, not just the Kelsians. The argument spread like fire through the chamber. Within minutes, the council had fractured into a dozen competing factions, each demanding priority, each accusing the others of selfishness. Threlkson watched it happen with a sinking heart. This was exactly what the humans had feared. The galaxy was going to tear itself apart before the wave even arrived. He left the chamber and returned to the communications center. He needed to think. He needed to find a way to unite the galaxy before it was too late. That was when he noticed something odd on the screens. New signals were appearing on the human channels. Not broadcasts, but data packets. Automated transmissions triggered by specific queries. He opened one of the packets and found himself looking at a human woman's face. She wore a simple uniform and smiled gently at the camera. "Hello," she said. "If you are watching this, then you have found the first protocol package. My name is Dr. Emily Santos, and I was part of the Exodus planning team. We knew this would be difficult. We knew you would struggle to coordinate, so we left you help." The message continued, and Threlson felt hope kindle in his chest for the first time in days. The humans had not just left technology, they had left a complete evacuation plan designed for the entire galaxy. Over the next few hours, Threlson and his team uncovered dozens of these hidden packages scattered across human space. Each one contained detailed instructions for different aspects of the evacuation: how to prioritize populations, how to organize the construction of transport gates, how to choose safe evacuation routes, even how to handle the political conflicts that would inevitably arise. The humans had thought of everything, but the most important discovery came from the data archives on Mars. Buried deep in the files, Threlson found something labeled Exodus Final Phase, Classification Maximum. He opened it with trembling hands. The file contained astronomical data, energy signatures, and mathematical equations that he did not fully understand. But the conclusion was written in simple, clear language. The humans did not just run away, Threlson whispered as he read. They found something. A destination. According to the files, humanity's deep space probes had detected anomalous readings from a region of intergalactic space between spiral arms, energy patterns that matched theoretical models of dimensional transitions. The humans believed they had found evidence of another universe. Another dimensional layer where the laws of physics were different, where vacuum decay might not be able to reach. The file contained partial schematics for something called a dimensional translation engine. The technology was far beyond anything the galaxy currently possessed, but the humans had apparently made progress on building working prototypes. Threlson rushed back to the council chamber. He found it still in chaos, with various species now threatening to withdraw from the council entirely and pursue their own survival plans. "Stop!" Threlson's voice boomed through the translation systems, amplified to override all other sound. "I have found something. The humans left us more than just evacuation plans. They left us hope." He uploaded the dimensional data to the central display. The equations and diagrams filled the air, glowing with soft blue light. "The humans found a way out," Threlson explained. "Not just running from the wave, but actually escaping it. They found evidence of another dimension, another layer of reality where we might be safe, and they left us the beginnings of the technology to reach it." The chamber fell silent as the council members studied the data. "This is impossible," said Chief Scientist Vexlar of the Crystalline Collective. "Dimensional translation is purely theoretical. Even if it exists, the energy requirements would be astronomical. We would need the power output of an entire star just to send a single ship." "The humans knew that," Threlson said quietly. "Look at their final calculations. They were not planning to power the engines conventionally. They were planning to use the vacuum decay wave itself. The energy of the collapsing universe would be enough to push through to another dimension. The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. The humans had not just found a way to run from death. They had found a way to turn death itself into a doorway to survival. But that would mean... Speaker Vornix's voice trailed off. "It means they plan to wait," Threlson finished. "Somewhere out there, humanity is waiting for the wave to catch up to them. They are going to ride the edge of annihilation and use its power to escape. And they left us the technology to do the same," Captain Zix added. "But only if we work together. Only if we can coordinate the entire galaxy to be in the right place at the right time." The council chamber remained silent. Every species present understood the magnitude of what they were being asked to do. They would need to abandon centuries of rivalry and mistrust. They would need to put aside political differences and work as one. They would need to trust each other with their very survival. "We have 42 days, Threlson said. 42 days to build the transport gates, to evacuate our populations, to construct the dimensional engines, and to coordinate the largest joint operation in galactic history. 42 days to do what we have never managed to do before." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. 42 days to prove that we can learn from humanity's example, that we can put survival above politics, that we can be better than we have been. Slowly, one by one, the council members began to nod. They did not have a choice. They could either work together or die alone. The galaxy had 42 days to learn unity, and humanity was waiting at the finish line to see if they would make it. Captain Zix had not slept in 3 days. Her ship, the Wandering Star, had become a mobile command center, jumping from system to system as she followed the trail humanity had left behind. While the Galactic Council struggled to coordinate the evacuation, Zix had become obsessed with a different question. Where had humanity gone? The evacuation data showed that 40 billion humans had departed toward the galactic edge, but the trail went cold after that. The humans had covered their tracks well, too well. They did not want to be followed, which meant they were either protecting something valuable or heading somewhere dangerous. Zix suspected it was both. "Captain, I have something," Voss called from his station. The young Krelian had barely left his post for days, scanning through human data logs and deep space telemetry. "I found energy signatures. Very faint but consistent with human fusion drives. The trail leads toward Sector 447. Zix pulled up the star charts. Sector 447 was empty space between spiral arms. No stars, no planets, nothing but void stretching for thousands of light years. The perfect place to hide. "Set course," she ordered. "Maximum speed." The journey took 30 hours. As they traveled, Zix continued reviewing everything the humans had left behind. She kept returning to the dimensional translation data. Something about it nagged at her, some detail she was missing. "Captain, we are approaching the coordinates," Voss announced. "Dropping from FTL now." The Wandering Star emerged into normal space and Zix felt her breath catch. Before them stretched the largest fleet she had ever seen. Thousands of ships ranging from massive generation vessels the size of cities to small transport craft. They hung in the void like a school of fish, all oriented in the same direction, all waiting, and they were not alone. Human ships dominated the fleet, but Zix could also identify vessels from a dozen other species, small groups who had apparently joined humanity's exodus, either through agreement or desperation. "We are being hailed," Voss reported, audio only. "It is coming from the largest vessel, the one at the fleet's center." "Put it through," Zix ordered. A woman's voice filled the bridge, speaking in accented but clear galactic common. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the UDEF Sanctuary. You have entered a restricted area. State your purpose." Zix felt a surge of excitement. "Admiral Chen, the woman from the message, the commander of the entire human evacuation. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Zix of the Wandering Star, operating under Galactic Council authority. I have come seeking answers. The Council is implementing your evacuation plans, but we need to know the full truth. What are you doing out here?" There was a long pause. Then Chen's voice returned, heavy with weariness. "Captain Zix, I remember your name from the reports. You are the one who found our message in Antarctica." "Yes, Admiral." Another pause. "Very well. You have come this far. You deserve to see what we have found. Transmitting docking coordinates now. Come aboard the Sanctuary." "But Captain, what you are about to learn changes everything." The docking procedure took an hour. The Sanctuary was enormous, a generation ship designed to house millions for centuries if necessary. As Zix walked through its corridors, she saw human families living in temporary quarters, children playing in communal spaces, people trying to maintain normalcy in the face of the impossible. Admiral Chen met her in a conference room near the ship's command center. The Admiral looked older than she had in the recording, with new lines around her eyes and streaks of gray in her hair. The weight of 40 billion lives showed on her face. "Thank you for coming," Chen said, gesturing for Zix to sit. "I imagine you have questions." "Many," Zix admitted. "But I will start with the most important one. What are you waiting for out here? According to your own data, the vacuum decay wave will reach this position in approximately 28 days. Why have you not fled further?" Chen smiled grimly. "Because we cannot flee, Captain. Not in the traditional sense. The wave is too fast, too vast. No matter how far we run, it will eventually catch us. So we chose to stop running and start fighting." She activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed the vacuum decay wave as a massive red wall advancing through space, but there were also blue markers scattered around it and green lines indicating trajectories. "We are not just waiting," Chen explained. "We are preparing. For the past month, our ships have been deploying monitoring stations around the wave's perimeter. We have been studying it, analyzing its structure, measuring its energy output. And we have learned something extraordinary. She zoomed in on the wave's edge. The display showed complex mathematical models and energy readings that made Zix's head spin. The wave is not solid, Chen continued. It has structure, patterns, rhythms. It is almost like it is breathing. And in those patterns, we found something. Gaps. Tiny windows where the energy fluctuates, where the dimensional barriers become thin. Thin enough to pass through? Zix asked. Exactly. But only for a fraction of a second and only with precisely calibrated equipment. We have been building dimensional translation engines based on ancient technology we recovered. But we realize something. We do not need to power them ourselves. The wave itself generates enough energy to punch through dimensions. We just need to be in the right place at the right time and use that power. Zix leaned forward, her mind racing. You are going to surf the wave. Use its own energy to escape it. In simple terms, yes. But it is more complex than that. The timing has to be perfect. Every ship in the fleet needs to activate their translation engines at the exact same moment, in the exact same location, or we will be torn apart by dimensional shear. And we only get one chance. Chen pulled up another display, this one showing calculations and probability models. We have been running simulations for weeks. The optimal window occurs in exactly 27 days, when the wave passes through this sector. If we succeed, we translate to a parallel dimension where the vacuum decay has not occurred, where we can survive. And if you fail, Chen's expression hardened, then humanity becomes extinct, along with everyone else still in this dimension. Zix sat back, processing the information. It was the most audacious plan she had ever heard. Humanity was literally betting their entire species on a single moment of perfect timing. Why did you not share this with the council? Zix asked. We did, Chen said quietly. It was all in the data we left behind. But we buried it deep because we knew what would happen. Some species would refuse to believe it was possible. Others would demand to control the technology. Some would try to sabotage us to steal our resources. We needed time to perfect the engines without interference. She looked directly at Zix. Captain, the question is not whether we can do this. We can, we will. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy can do it too. Can the Council unite 47 species, build the engines and coordinate a simultaneous dimensional jump? Or will politics and fear tear everything apart? Zix thought about the chaos she had witnessed in the council chamber. The arguments, the accusations, the mistrust, I do not know, she admitted. But they are trying. Threlkson is coordinating the construction of transport gates. Dozens of species are working together on evacuation plans. It is messy and chaotic, but it is happening. Chen nodded slowly. Then there is hope. Captain, I am going to share something with you that I have not shared with anyone outside our fleet. Come with me. She led Zix deeper into the ship, down through multiple levels until they reached a massive chamber in the sanctuary's core. Inside, dozens of human scientists and engineers worked around an enormous machine that seemed to bend light around itself. This is our prototype dimensional engine, Chen explained. We have been testing it for weeks, sending probes through to the other side. And Captain, we have received responses. Zix felt her skin prickle. Responses? From what? Chen pulled up a display showing strange signals, patterns of energy that seemed almost like language. From whoever survived the last vacuum decay event, Chen said softly. The universe we are jumping to is not empty, Captain. There is a civilization there, one that went through exactly what we are going through now, and they are waiting to help us. She looked at Zix with intensity. But they can only help if we arrive together. If humanity jumps alone, we might survive, but we will be stranded. The technology to return to help others requires resources we do not have. We need the rest of the galaxy with us, all of us together, or none of us at all. Zix understood then why Chen had agreed to see her. This was not just about humanity's survival. It was about ensuring that the lesson the humans had learned, the technology they had developed, could save everyone. I need to take this back to the council, Zix said. They need to know all of it. I know, Chen agreed. That is why I told you. But Captain, you need to hurry. We have 27 days until the window opens. If the galaxy is not ready, if they cannot coordinate the jump, then they need to scatter and hope some survive. But if they can come together, if they can trust each other for just one moment, then everyone can make it through, Zix finished. She looked around the chamber at the humans working desperately on their impossible machine. These people had discovered their entire species was doomed, and chose to find a way to save everyone, not just themselves. Served that chance. The final 3 days before the dimensional jump were chaos incarnate. Throughout the galaxy, billions of beings abandoned their homes and rushed toward the convergence points that humanity's plans had designated. Transport gates hummed with constant activity, moving populations across vast distances in streams of quantum light. But not everyone came. Ambassador Threlkson stood in the communications hub, watching the evacuation status boards with a heavy heart. 23 species had committed fully to the plan, evacuating their populations and building dimensional engines according to human specifications. Another 12 had partially evacuated, with some groups joining while others scattered into deep space, hoping to outrun the wave through conventional means. And 12 species had refused entirely. Some did not believe the threat was real. Others did not trust the human technology. A few had political or religious reasons for rejecting the plan. The Kelsian Empire had actually attempted to seize human evacuation ships by force, leading to brief but brutal conflict that cost thousands of lives before Galactic Council peacekeepers intervened. Threlkson had spent weeks trying to convince everyone, pleading with leaders, showing them the data, explaining the stakes. But in the end, some people would rather die believing their own truth than live accepting someone else's help. "Ambassador," called his assistant, "Captain Zix is requesting communication." "She says it is urgent." Threlkson accepted the call. Zix's face appeared on the screen and she looked absolutely exhausted. "Ambassador, the convergence fleet is having problems. 3 species cannot get their dimensional engines synchronized with the master clock. If they cannot match the timing, the dimensional shear will tear their ships apart during translation. Can the humans help them?" "They are trying, but Ambassador, we are running out of time. The wave will be here in 62 hours. We need those engines working in 58 hours to allow for final positioning." Threlkson closed his eyes. 4 hours. That was all the margin they had left. "I will contact their governments directly. We will make this work, Captain." After the call ended, Threlkson allowed himself a moment of exhaustion. He had not slept properly in weeks. None of them had. The entire galaxy was running on desperation and stimulants. His communicator chimed again. This time it was a priority alert from the Galactic Defense Network. He opened it and felt his blood run cold. The vacuum decay wave had accelerated. Instead of arriving in 62 hours, the new projections showed it would reach the convergence zone in 53 hours. They had just lost 9 hours. Threlkson immediately contacted all fleet commanders, all species leaders, everyone involved in the evacuation. The message was simple: move faster or die. There was no more time for caution, no more time for perfect procedures. They needed to get everyone to the convergence point and activate the engines within 48 hours. The next 2 days were a blur of frantic activity. Ships burned their engines past safety limits to reach the convergence point faster. Engineers worked without rest to complete the dimensional engines. Families were separated as some ships departed before everyone could board, with promises that they would reunite on the other side. Captain Zix arrived at the convergence point with 30 hours to spare and immediately threw herself into coordinating the final fleet positioning. Over 3,000 ships from 23 different species now filled the space, all of them carrying the last survivors of their civilizations. Billions of lives, all depending on one moment of perfect coordination. Admiral Chen contacted Zix personally to go over the final checklist. The human fleet had positioned itself at the center of the formation, with the sanctuary serving as the master coordination vessel. All engines must activate within a window of 3 milliseconds, Chen explained. Any longer and the dimensional barriers will shift. Ships activating too early will translate to the wrong dimensional layer. Ships activating too late will be caught by the wave. 3 milliseconds, Zix repeated. Across 3,000 ships, each with different computer systems, different communication delays. "I know," Chen said. "That is why we are using quantum entanglement communicators. No light speed delay. Every ship receives the activation signal at the exact same instant." Zix looked at the countdown timer. 28 hours remaining. "And if it does not work?" Chen's expression was calm, accepting. "Then we die trying to live. Better than dying without trying at all." The final hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. Ship after ship reported ready status. Engineers completed last-minute repairs. Parents held their children close. People of 100 different species said prayers in 1,000 different languages, all hoping for the same thing: survival. With 6 hours remaining, Threlksin broadcast a message to the entire fleet. His words were translated into every language represented in the Armada. "People of the galaxy," he began, "in a few hours we will attempt something that has never been done before. We will leave our dimension, our universe, everything we have ever known. We go to escape death and find new life. We go together, united not by politics or treaties, but by the simple desire to survive. Whatever happens next, remember this moment. Remember that when faced with extinction, we chose to help each other. The humans could have abandoned us. They chose not to. Let us prove worthy of their faith. Let us show that the galaxy can be better than it has been. See you on the other side." The final countdown began at 1 hour. All non-essential systems were shut down to conserve power for the dimensional engines. Ships drifted in formation, their engines cold, waiting for the moment of activation. At 30 minutes, the first visual signs of the wave appeared, a darkness on the edge of sensors, reality itself beginning to unravel. The effect was subtle at first, just a distortion in the starlight. But it grew rapidly, a wall of annihilation rushing toward them at impossible speed. At 10 minutes, parents stopped trying to distract their children and simply held them. Engineers stopped checking their instruments and made peace with their work. Soldiers set aside their weapons. Religious leaders fell silent. Everyone waited. At 1 minute, Admiral Chen activated the quantum communicators linking every ship in the fleet. Her voice was steady and clear. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chen. Dimensional engines to standby. We are about to do the impossible. Count with me. 60 seconds, 3,000 ships counted down together, voices in hundreds of languages, all speaking as one. 30 seconds. The wave was visible now without instruments, a churning wall of broken physics consuming reality itself. 15 seconds. Zix found herself whispering the count along with everyone else, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. 10, 9, 8. The wave was so close now that it filled half the sky. Beautiful and terrible, the end of everything. 5, 4, 3. Zix felt the dimensional engine beneath her feet begin to hum, building toward activation. 2, 1. Activate. 3,000 dimensional engines fired simultaneously. The universe bent. Reality folded. Space and time twisted into impossible geometries. For an instant, Zix existed in two places at once. She could see her ship's bridge and also the swirling chaos of the space between dimensions. She could feel herself being torn apart and put back together. She could hear music that was not sound and see colors that did not exist, and then, suddenly, everything was still. The wandering star floated in normal space. But the stars were different. The constellations were wrong. The cosmic background radiation was a different temperature. They were in another dimension, another layer of reality. And they were not alone. Zix's sensors showed all 3,000 ships had made the jump successfully, not a single vessel lost. Against all odds, against impossible timing, they had all survived. But there was something else on sensors. Something massive approaching from deeper in the system. Ships, thousands of them, but not human ships. These vessels were constructed from materials Zix had never seen, using design principles that seemed to defy physics. They were beautiful and strange and utterly alien. A communication signal reached the wandering star. It was not in any language Zix knew, but her translation systems worked on it, slowly decoding the message. "Welcome, travelers. We have been waiting for you. We know what you have experienced. We survived the last cycle, as those before us survived the cycle before that. The pattern continues across dimensions, across time, but you have broken it. You are the first to arrive together. Multiple species united. This changes everything." Admiral Chen's voice cut across all channels, speaking to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We made it. We all made it. I told you we would come back for you if we found a way. We found more than a way. We found teachers. We found hope. And we found a new home." The Sanctuary's engines fired, moving toward the alien fleet. One by one, the other ships followed. Humans, Vexians, Altarians, Draconians, Krelians, and dozens of other species, all moving forward together into a new beginning. Threlksin watched from his position on the communications hub ship, tears streaming down his face. They had done it. Against all odds, against their own worst natures, they had come together and survived. On the sanctuary's bridge, Admiral Sarah Chen stood and looked at her crew. Her exhausted, brilliant, beautiful crew who had worked miracles to save not just humanity, but everyone who would listen. The conference hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal, built by the Valorians who believed that transparent structures promoted honest dialogue. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the human podium, her hands gripping the sides as she looked out at the assembled representatives of 4,000 alien civilizations. The Galactic Council had been meeting for 300 years before humanity even discovered faster-than-light travel. And now, 47 years after Earth's admission, the humans were still treated like children at the adult table. The Cathara border incursions are increasing, Sarah said. Her voice translated into thousands of languages by the neural implants every council member wore. In the past 6 months, they have violated our territorial space 19 times. They are testing us, and I urge this council to take action before the situation escalates. A ripple of movement passed through the chamber. The Cathara delegation, their reptilian scales gleaming under the hall's artificial suns, remained motionless. Their lead diplomat, War Commander Thexacal, rose from his seat. He was nearly 3 meters tall. His species evolved from apex predators on a world where violence was rare but decisive. The humans exaggerate, Thexacal said, his translated voice carrying amusement. These were navigation errors, nothing more. Perhaps if humanity's technology was more advanced, such confusion would not occur. Laughter echoed from several delegations. The Zephyrini, beings of crystallized energy, chimed with sounds like breaking glass. The Malothians, who resembled mobile fungal colonies, released spores that translated to mockery in the chamber's atmosphere processors. Sarah felt her jaw tighten. She had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years, and in that time she had learned that most of the galaxy viewed humanity as barely civilized. They had examined Earth's history, seen the wars, the genocides, the nuclear weapons that nearly ended the species in the 21st century. They had decided humans were primitive, violent, and in need of guidance. Commander Thexcal, Sarah continued, maintaining her diplomatic tone, Earth has complied with every council regulation since our admission. We reduced our military to the permitted levels. We dismantled our weapon systems. We accepted junior status and have never challenged the council's authority. But I must remind this assembly that our compliance is a choice, not a necessity. The Valorian Council President, a being named Crystalline Thought Ascending, shimmered with colors that indicated confusion. Ambassador Chen, are you threatening this council?
No, Sarah replied firmly.
I am warning you. Humanity has a long history of warfare. We have fought wars that consumed continents. We have created weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We chose peace because we understood the alternative. We chose to follow your rules because we believed in a better way. But if you force us to defend ourselves without restriction, do not assume you understand what we are capable of. The chamber fell silent for a moment, then erupted in what the translation systems rendered as dismissive noise. The council members had heard this before. Every few years the humans would issue these dramatic warnings and nothing ever came of it. Earth was small with only 37 colony worlds compared to the thousands held by older civilizations. Their technology was adequate but unremarkable. Their military, now reduced to council-mandated levels, could barely defend their own territory. Your warning is noted, Crystalline Thought Ascending said, the colors of its body indicating the matter was closed. The Cathara have assured us that no hostile intent exists. We recommend both parties engage in cultural exchange programs to build mutual understanding. Sarah wanted to scream. Instead, she bowed slightly and returned to her seat. Beside her, Admiral James Okoye, Earth's military representative to the council, leaned close. They don't believe us, he whispered. They never do, Sarah replied. Back on Earth, in a facility buried beneath the Australian outback, Dr. Marcus Webb reviewed the latest reports from the reconnaissance drones monitoring Cathara military movements. The drones were strictly illegal under council law, of course, but Earth had learned early that following every rule would get them killed. Their fleet is massing near the Proxima Junction, Marcus said to the holographic image of General Patricia Zhao, commander of Earth's United Defense Force. That's 3 jumps from New Harmony. New Harmony was humanity's most successful colony, home to 8 million people, and Earth's primary agricultural research facilities. It was also poorly defended, with only a single orbital station and a small defensive fleet. Do we have authorization to reinforce? General Zhao asked. Negative. The Council would notice the fleet movements and demand an explanation. We're already under observation for our last unauthorized military exercise. General Zhao's expression hardened. She was 72 years old and had served in the military since before first contact with alien life. She remembered when humanity's weapons were unrestricted, when Earth maintained dozens of dreadnoughts capable of cracking moons and orbital weapons that could sterilize continents. She had watched those weapons dismantled, cut apart, scattered across the solar system as scrap metal to satisfy Council regulations. Have we heard from Site 17? She asked. Marcus smiled slightly. Construction is on schedule. The first batch will be ready for deployment in 6 months. Site 17 did not officially exist. Neither did Sites 3, 8, 12, or the 43 other hidden facilities scattered across human space. The Council believed humanity had destroyed their advanced weapons. They were wrong. Every schematic, every research file, every tactical doctrine had been preserved, studied, and improved upon. Humanity had spent 47 years pretending to be harmless while preparing for the day when the illusion would shatter. That day came on a cold morning in March, by Earth's calendar. The Cathara fleet, numbering over 400 vessels, emerged from faster-than-light travel in orbit around New Harmony. They did not issue warnings or demands. They simply began firing on the colony's cities. The orbital defense station lasted 6 minutes before a Cathara plasma lance cut it in half. The human defensive fleet, 12 ships following Council-approved designs, engaged immediately. They were outnumbered 30-1 and destroyed within an hour. On the planet below, the bombardment continued for 8 hours before the Cathara ceased fire. 340,000 people died. Most of them were civilians, many of them children. The Cathara troops landed afterward, expecting to accept the colony's surrender and incorporate the survivors into their empire as slave labor, as was their custom with conquered worlds. Instead, they found a population that refused to submit. The colonists had retreated into the underground shelters that every human colony maintained, and they were armed. Not with Council-approved weapons, but with equipment that had been hidden away for exactly this scenario. The Cathara ground forces expected frightened farmers. They encountered guerrilla fighters who had been training for decades. Earth received the news 14 hours after the attack began. Ambassador Chen watched the footage from New Harmony, her hands shaking as she saw the burned cities and the piles of bodies the Cathara had left in the streets as warnings. Call an emergency council session, she said quietly. Sarah, Admiral Okoye said, you know they will demand we negotiate. I know, she replied, and I'm going to tell them exactly what happens next. The emergency session convened within 3 hours. The chamber was less full than usual, with many delegates attending via hologram rather than in person. Ambassador Chen walked to the human podium, and this time, her hands did not shake. The Cathara Empire has committed an act of genocide against a human colony world, she began. 340,000 of our people are dead. The Council's rules of engagement, which we have followed faithfully for 47 years, require that we now enter mediation and accept a negotiated settlement. She paused, looking directly at Thexkal, who sat in his delegation seats with an expression that might have been satisfaction. We decline, Sarah continued. Humanity invokes Article 73 of the Council Charter, which permits unlimited self-defense in response to genocidal attacks. We warned this council repeatedly that pushing humanity to war was a mistake. You ignored those warnings. You mistook our compliance for weakness and our restraint for inability. Ambassador Chen, crystalline thought ascending, interrupted, its colors flashing alarm. You cannot be suggesting Earth is going to war, Sarah said, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. Not the limited regulated conflict you understand. Real war as humanity has practiced it for 10,000 years. We gave you peace because we chose peace. You chose to give us war instead. May whatever gods you worship have mercy on you because we will not. The Cathara expected retaliation. What they received was something entirely different. War Commander Thexkal reviewed the intelligence reports from his command ship, the Endless Hunger, with growing confusion. The human defensive fleet had been destroyed at New Harmony as expected. The Council had issued formal protests but taken no action, as expected. By all military doctrine, the humans should now be scrambling to defend their remaining colonies while negotiating surrender terms. Instead, human ships had simply vanished. "Where is their fleet?" Thexcal demanded of his intelligence officer, a younger Cathara named Sephron. "Unknown, Commander. Our scouts report that human vessels have withdrawn from their normal patrol routes. They are not defending their colonies or their homeworld approach vectors. They are cowards, then," Thexcal concluded. "Prepare the fleet for the assault on their mining operations in the Arcturus sector. Once we control their resource worlds, Earth will have no choice but to submit." The Cathara fleet, still numbering over 300 vessels after the New Harmony engagement, entered faster than light travel toward their next target. They emerged in the Arcturus sector expecting to find lightly defended mining stations and perhaps a token defensive force. What they found was nothing. The mining stations had been abandoned, their equipment stripped away and the orbital platforms completely empty. For a moment, Thexcal wondered if the humans had simply fled. Then his sensors detected movement. Hundreds of small objects, each no larger than a personnel shuttle, suddenly appeared on the tactical display. They were accelerating at speeds that would kill any organic crew, and moving in patterns that violated every principle of civilized warfare. "No formation, no coordination, no clear command structure. What are those?" Sephron asked. "Unknown contacts, possibly missiles or drones," the sensor officer replied. "But they are not using any Council-approved propulsion or weapon systems." The objects swarmed toward the Cathara fleet like angry insects. The fleet's defensive batteries opened fire, destroying dozens of them, but there were too many. When the first one reached a Cathara destroyer, it did not explode as expected. Instead, it attached itself to the hull and began cutting through the armor with some kind of molecular dissolver. Within seconds, more of the objects had attached themselves to ships across the fleet. They cut through hulls, vented atmosphere, and disrupted power systems. The Cathara crews tried to respond, but they were trained for conventional fleet battles, not this kind of asymmetric attack. "All ships, emergency faster-than-light jump," Thexcal ordered. The fleet scattered, jumping to random coordinates to escape the swarm. When they regrouped 3 hours later, they had lost 47 vessels. Not destroyed exactly, but damaged beyond repair and unable to maintain life support. The crews had been evacuated, but the ships themselves were now floating wrecks. "What weapons were those?" Thexcal demanded. Nobody had an answer. The Cathara had been fighting wars for 6,000 years, and they had never encountered anything like this. The Galactic Council had regulations about artificial intelligence in weapon systems, about autonomous attack drones, about warfare conducted without organic oversight. Humanity appeared to be violating every single one of those regulations. On Earth, General Zhao watched the battle reports with grim satisfaction. The AI-controlled hunter-killer drones had performed even better than expected. They had been designed 40 years ago, before the Council banned such weapons, and humanity had quietly improved the technology ever since. "The Cathara are filing formal complaints with the Council," Admiral Okoye reported. "They are claiming we are using illegal weapons." "Good," General Zhao replied. "Let them complain. We warned them this would not be the kind of war they understand." The second engagement came 4 days later. The Cathara, now reinforced by allied vessels from the Malothian Collective, attempted to blockade Earth's largest trade route through the Sirius Junction. They positioned their fleet in a defensive formation, ready for another swarm of drones. This time, the human attack came from a completely different direction. A single human ship, a modified cargo hauler named Hope's Defiance, emerged from faster-than-light travel at maximum velocity. It was not attempting to fight. It was attempting to ram. The Cathara opened fire immediately, their weapons tearing through the Hope's Defiance hull. But the ship did not slow down. It continued its trajectory, absorbing damage, and then it collided with the Cathara command carrier at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion consumed both vessels and damaged 18 other ships nearby. The Cathara fleet broke formation in panic, and that was when the real attack began. Human warships, utilizing stealth technology that the Council had never seen before, decloaked throughout the battlefield and opened fire at point-blank range. The engagement lasted 37 minutes. When it was over, the Cathara had lost their command carrier, 3 heavy cruisers, and 22 support vessels. The humans had lost 4 ships, including the Hope's Defiance. But the humans had also broadcast the entire battle on open channels, ensuring that every species in the galaxy could watch. They are using suicide tactics, the Valorian Council president said during the emergency session that followed. This is barbaric. This is war, Ambassador Chen replied coldly. The Cathara wanted to test humanity's resolve. Now they know. We will use any tactic, any weapon, any strategy necessary to defend our people. The Council regulations on warfare were designed for your civilized conflicts over resources and territory. Humanity has fought wars of extinction. We know what total war means, Kanos. You must stop, Crystalline Thought Ascending insisted. There are rules, protocols. You cannot simply, we can and we will, Sarah interrupted. We spent 47 years following your rules. We tried to be the civilized species you wanted us to be. The Cathara chose to interpret that as weakness. They murdered hundreds of thousands of our people. Did the Council sanction them? Did you send peacekeepers? Did you do anything except issue statements of concern? The chamber fell silent. That is what I thought, Sarah continued. Humanity is standing alone as we always have. The difference now is that we are not pretending anymore. The Cathara War Council met aboard their fortress world of Kethra Prime, deep within their imperial territory. They had never lost so many ships so quickly, and they had never faced an enemy who fought with such disregard for their own casualties. We need reinforcements, Dexcal said. Contact the Zafrani and the Antillean Combine. Offer them territorial concessions in exchange for military support. Is that wise? Sephiron asked. The humans have shown capabilities we did not anticipate. Perhaps we should negotiate. We do not negotiate with prey, Dexcal snarled. The humans are using tricks and desperate tactics because they know they cannot win a conventional war. Once we have sufficient numbers, we will crush them. 3 species answered the Cathara call for support. The Zafrani, beings of crystallized energy who controlled vast territories through economic influence. The Antillean Combine, a hive mind species with excellent manufacturing capabilities. And the Drek Sovereignty, warriors who believed in honor and personal combat. Together with the Cathara, they assembled a fleet of over 1,000 vessels, the largest military force assembled in the galaxy for 300 years. Let the humans try their tricks now, Dexcal said. On Earth, General Zhao received the intelligence about the combined fleet without surprise. She had expected this. Every war humanity had ever fought had taught the same lesson. Enemies always underestimated human determination, and they always believed that overwhelming force would break human resistance. Release the Ghost Fleet, she ordered. In hidden facilities across human space, automated factories that had been operating in secret for decades activated their final production protocols. Ships began launching from asteroid bases, from hollowed-out moons, from concealed construction yards in the deep dark between stars. They were not crewed by humans. They were controlled by artificial intelligences that had been trained on every battle humanity had ever fought, every tactical doctrine ever developed, every ruthless strategy ever conceived. The Ghost Fleet numbered 5,000 vessels. Each one was optimized for a specific purpose: fast attack, long-range bombardment, electronic warfare, or simple destruction. They did not need life support, did not fear death, and did not hesitate. They were everything the Galactic Council had feared when they banned AI warfare, and they were about to teach the galaxy why those fears were justified. The combined Cathara fleet received their first indication that something was wrong when their faster-than-light communication networks suddenly went offline. Human cyber warfare platforms, themselves AI-controlled, had infiltrated the Cathara military networks and begun systematically destroying their ability to coordinate. Then the Ghost Fleet arrived, and the real nightmare began. The battle took place across 14 solar systems simultaneously. The Ghost Fleet did not fight fair. They used relativistic weapons that could destroy planets, biological agents designed specifically for each enemy species, nano-weapon swarms that could disassemble a ship molecule by molecule, and psychological warfare tactics that broadcast horrifying imagery directly into enemy communication channels. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so chaotic. Representatives from 4,000 civilizations shouted, chimed, released chemical signals. and broadcast electromagnetic pulses in every language and communication method the translation systems could handle. At the center of the storm stood Ambassador Sarah Chen, her face calm despite the accusations being hurled at her from every direction. The humans must be stopped. A Zephrani delegate shrieked, its crystalline form flickering with colors that indicated pure terror. They have destroyed our entire defense fleet. They are using weapons banned by every civilized species in the galaxy. We are using the weapons we told you we possessed, Sarah replied. For 47 years you believed we had destroyed our military technology. We did not. We simply hid it and made it better. You chose not to believe our warnings. The Malothian representative, a mobile fungal colony named Growth Through Seasons, released spores that the translation system rendered as outrage. You deceived the Council. You violated trust. You maintained illegal weapon systems. We maintained our survival, Sarah shot back. The Cathara slaughtered 340,000 of our people. Where was the Council? Where were the peacekeepers? Where was the justice you promised us when we joined your alliance? Crystalline thought ascending shimmered with colors that Sarah had learned to interpret as desperation. Ambassador Chen, please. You must call off your fleet. The Cathara are willing to negotiate. Their allies have withdrawn from the conflict. Surely this has gone far enough. Far enough. Sarah's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. The Cathara Empire still exists. Their homeworld still stands. Their military infrastructure is damaged but not destroyed. We have not gone far enough. We will go exactly as far as necessary to ensure this never happens to humanity again. You are speaking of conquering their homeworld, a Drex representative said, its translated voice carrying both horror and respect. That is a line that has not been crossed in the Council's history for over a century. Then perhaps it is time for a new precedent, Sarah replied. The debate raged for 6 more hours before the Council took a vote on whether to intervene militarily against humanity. The result was telling. 3,000 civilizations abstained, 800 voted against intervention, and only 200 voted in favor. The galaxy had seen what happened to species who fought humanity, and most of them wanted no part of it. On the Cathara homeworld of Kethra Prime, panic spread through the population. The planet had not faced invasion for 4,000 years. Their orbital defenses were considered the finest in the galaxy, with weapons platforms capable of destroying entire fleets. They had fortress cities built into mountain ranges, underground bunkers that could sustain billions for years, and a military tradition that emphasized defense of the homeworld above all else. None of it mattered. The human fleet arrived in orbit 72 hours after the Council debate. They did not announce themselves or issue demands. They simply began systematically destroying every orbital defense platform, every military satellite, every communication relay. The Cathara Defense Forces launched everything they had, over 2,000 fighters and bombers, backed by ground-based artillery that could reach orbit. The human fleet absorbed the attack with shields technology that the Cathara could not penetrate. Then they returned fire with precision that was almost artistic. Every Cathara military installation was targeted and destroyed. Every government building was hit. Every center of resistance was eliminated. But the residential areas remained untouched. Thexcal watched from his underground command bunker as his homeworld burned. He had ordered the evacuation of all military personnel and their families to the shelters, but millions of civilians remained on the surface. He expected the humans to kill them all. It was what the Cathara would have done. Instead, the bombardment stopped. A communication came through on all Cathara frequencies. It was Ambassador Chen, standing in what appeared to be the bridge of a human warship. People of Kethra Prime, she said in flawless Cathara language, your government chose to make war on humanity. Your military chose to murder our civilians. We have now demonstrated that we can destroy your world completely if we choose. But we are not monsters. We are giving you one opportunity to surrender. Evacuate your cities. We are coming down. Thexcal stared at the message in disbelief. They are going to invade? Why not just destroy us from orbit? Because, Sephiron said quietly, they want us to know we lost. They want us to face them. The first human soldiers landed in drop pods that screamed through the atmosphere like meteors. The Cathara had expected troops in armor, carrying conventional weapons. What they got was something else entirely. Human soldiers wore powered exoskeletons that enhanced their already formidable physical capabilities. They moved faster than Cathara warriors, struck harder, and seemed to require no rest. They coordinated with a precision that suggested telepathy, though intelligence reports confirmed humans were not psychic. They used tactics that the Cathara military academies had never taught, because those tactics were considered too ruthless, too effective, too brutal. The first major engagement took place in the fortress city of Kethral, built into a mountain range and designed to be impregnable. The Cathara garrison numbered 50,000 warriors, equipped with the finest weapons their empire could provide. They had supplies for a 5-year siege and enough ammunition to fight for decades. The human assault force numbered 3,000 soldiers. They took the city in 18 hours. Captain Marcus Rivera led his squad through the rubble of what had been the fortress's eastern wall. His heads-up display marked enemy positions, structural weaknesses, and optimal firing lanes. Behind him, his squad moved with the practiced efficiency of veterans who had trained together for years. Contact. 200 meters elevated position, his AI assistant announced directly into his neural interface. Marcus did not need to give orders. His squad already knew what to do. 2 soldiers broke off to flank the position while the rest provided suppressing fire. The Cathara defenders returned fire with plasma weapons that could melt steel. But the human armor absorbed the hits and kept advancing. The Cathara warrior holding the elevated position was named Kreshnal. He had served in the military for 20 years and had never known fear. Now, watching the human soldiers advance despite his fire, he felt something he had no name for. They did not retreat when injured. They did not panic when outgunned. They just kept coming, relentless as a tide. One of the flanking soldiers emerged behind Kreshnal's position and fired a weapon that looked deceptively simple. The projectile hit Kreshnal in the chest and detonated, not with an explosion, but with a burst of electricity that overloaded his nervous system. He collapsed, paralyzed but alive. The human soldier stepped over him and continued advancing. Kreshnal realized that the humans were not trying to kill every Cathara they encountered. They were neutralizing threats and moving on. It was more efficient than slaughter, and somehow more terrifying. In the command bunker deep beneath Kethral, Thexakal received reports of the fortress city's fall with growing dread. His communication with the garrison had cut off hours ago, and now reconnaissance showed human forces consolidating their control of the entire city. 50,000 Cathara warriors defeated by 3,000 humans. How? He asked the empty air. They are better at war than we are, Sephiron said. We evolved on a world where predators were rare. Our species fought over territory and resources, but violence was uncommon. Earth, humans evolved alongside dozens of predator species. They competed with them, hunted them, domesticated them. Then they spent 10,000 years fighting each other. They have had more wars in their recorded history than our species has had in 10 times that span. But they seemed so peaceful, Thexakal protested. In the council, they were always advocating for negotiation, for cultural exchange, for understanding. They were, Sephiron agreed, because they know what war costs. They chose peace because they understood the alternative better than we did. We mistook their choice for weakness. A human communication broadcast interrupted their conversation. This time it was not Ambassador Chen, but a soldier. The camera showed a human woman in combat armor, her helmet removed to reveal a face covered in sweat and dust. I am Colonel Amanda Torres, commander of the human ground forces on Kethra Prime. To the Cathara military leadership, we have secured all major population centers on your homeworld. Your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your fleet is scattered. You have lost this war. I am authorized to accept your surrender on the following terms. The terms appeared on the display. They were harsh but not genocidal. The Cathara Empire would be dissolved. Their military would be reduced to a small defensive force. They would pay reparations for the attack on New Harmony. War criminals, including Thexakal himself, would be handed over for trial. But the Cathara people would be allowed to survive, to rebuild, to have a future. If you do not accept these terms within 12 hours, Colonel Torres continued, we will resume military operations. We have the capability to bombard your planet from orbit, to deploy biological weapons tailored to your species, to use nuclear devices that would render your world uninhabitable. The surrender of the Cathara homeworld sent shockwaves through the galaxy. 3 other species who had allied with the Cathara immediately contacted Earth to negotiate separate peace agreements. The Zafrani offered complete access to their economic networks. The Antillean Combine provided technological patents worth trillions. The Drex sovereignty, warriors who respected strength above all else, offered a formal alliance. Earth accepted all three offers, but the terms were harsh. Each species would reduce their military to defensive levels only. Each would allow human observers to verify compliance. Each would pay reparations to the families of those killed at New Harmony. The galaxy learned quickly that humanity was not interested in conquest, but they would extract every possible advantage from their victory. On Earth, the mood was complex. There were celebrations in some cities, people waving flags and cheering in the streets. Humanity had proven itself to the galaxy. They had taken on multiple species and won decisively, but in other places there was a deeper, quieter reaction. Memorials were built for the soldiers who had died. Support groups formed for veterans returning from the war. Religious leaders spoke of the burden of victory and the cost of violence. In a quiet office in Geneva, Dr. Elena Vasquez reviewed psychological assessments of soldiers returning from the Cathara campaign. She was the chief psychologist for the United Defense Force, and what she was seeing in the data terrified her. "We created something efficient," she said to General Zhao during their weekly briefing. "Our soldiers are incredibly effective. The Cathara never stood a chance once we committed to total war. But look at these statistics." General Zhao examined the reports. The numbers painted a disturbing picture. 43% of returning soldiers showed signs of severe psychological trauma. 27% reported nightmares about combat actions they had taken. 15% expressed concerns about their ability to return to civilian life. And most troubling, 8% reported that they had enjoyed the combat. "They are good at war," Elena continued. "Too good. We spent 47 years pretending to be peaceful, but we never stopped preparing for conflict. We trained these men and women to be efficient killers, and now we are surprised that they struggle with what they became." "What do you recommend?" General Zhao asked. "Mandatory psychological support for all returning personnel. No exceptions. And we need to be honest about what we asked them to do. We sent them to fight a war without mercy, and they followed orders. The least we can do is help them process what that means." On the Cathara homeworld, the occupation was proving more complex than anticipated. Colonel Amanda Torres had expected resistance, sabotage, attempts at insurgency. Instead, she found a population that seemed shocked into compliance. The Cathara civilians were not hostile. They were afraid. "They think we are going to kill them," Lieutenant Sarah Kim reported after conducting interviews with local residents. "They expect us to do to them what they did to New Harmony." Amanda had seen the recordings from New Harmony, the piles of bodies, the burned children, the systematic slaughter that the Cathara had inflicted. She understood the desire for revenge. Some of her soldiers had lost family members in that attack, but humanity had made a choice about what kind of species they wanted to be, even in victory. "We are not going to kill civilians," Amanda said firmly. "That is not who we are. Make sure every unit commander understands. Anyone who violates the rules of engagement will face court-martial. We won this war. Now we have to win the peace." It was easier said than done. Private James Chen, no relation to Ambassador Sarah Chen, stood guard at a distribution center where human forces were providing food and medical supplies to displaced Cathara civilians. He watched as the aliens lined up, their scales dulled by stress and malnutrition, and he tried to reconcile what he was seeing with what he knew they had done. "They killed my cousin," he said to his squad mate, Corporal Maria Santos. "She was at New Harmony. She was a teacher. They burned her school with all the children inside." "I know," Maria replied. "My brother died there too. But these civilians did not do that. Their military did. We are trying to be better than them." "Are we?" James asked. "We used biological weapons. We deployed AI that killed without hesitation. We bombed their cities and invaded their homeworld. How are we better?" Maria did not have an answer. It was the question that haunted every human soldier on occupation duty. They had won by being more ruthless, more efficient, more willing to do terrible things than their enemies. Somewhere along the way they had stopped holding back, and now they were trying to figure out how to put the restraints back on. On Earth, the debate raged in every parliament, every senate, every governing body. What kind of military should humanity maintain now? What role should they play in the galaxy? How could they prevent this from happening again? Ambassador Sarah Chen returned to Earth for the first time in 3 years to address the United Nations. She stood at the podium where so many leaders had spoken before, and she looked out at representatives from every nation on Earth. "We won the war," she began. "The Cathara have surrendered. Their allies have made peace. Humanity has secured its position in the galaxy. But I want to talk about what that victory cost us." She displayed images from the war, not the glorious battle scenes that the media had shown, but the aftermath. Destroyed cities on both sides, wounded soldiers, human and alien, the faces of children who had lost parents, the burned landscape of New Harmony where flowers were just beginning to grow again. "This is what war looks like," Sarah continued. "Not the strategic victories or the tactical brilliance, this. We had to do terrible things to win. We used weapons we are not proud of. We killed thousands, maybe millions. We did it because we had no choice, because the alternative was extinction. But let us never pretend that it was glorious." The chamber was silent. "The galaxy is afraid of us now," Sarah said. "They have seen what we are capable of when we stop holding back. Some of you might think that is good, that fear equals respect. But I have spent decades in diplomatic service, and I can tell you that fear is not a foundation for lasting peace. Fear breeds resentment. Resentment breeds conspiracy. Eventually, the fearful become desperate enough to try again." "What are you proposing?" asked the Secretary General. "We maintain our military strength," Sarah replied. "We do not dismantle our weapons or pretend we are harmless. The galaxy will not believe that lie again. But we also commit to being something more than a military power. We invest in diplomacy, in cultural exchange, in building genuine relationships with other species. We show them that humanity can be trusted with power because we understand its responsibility." The proposal sparked heated debate. Some argued that humanity should leverage its military dominance to expand its territory and influence. Others believed that Earth should retreat into isolation, maintaining defenses but avoiding galactic politics. Still others wanted to pursue Sarah's middle path, maintaining strength while rebuilding trust. On the Cathara homeworld, War Commander Thexkal awaited trial in a human detention facility. He was treated according to the Geneva Conventions, ancient human laws about the treatment of prisoners that the Cathara had never bothered to develop. He had adequate food, medical care, and even access to legal representation. His lawyer was human, a woman named Rebecca Martinez who had volunteered to represent Cathara war criminals because she believed everyone deserved a fair trial. "I do not understand you," Thexkal said during one of their meetings. "My people murdered yours. I gave the orders that led to the New Harmony massacre. Why are you helping me?" "Because that is what justice means," Rebecca replied. "You will be tried for your crimes. If found guilty, you will be punished. But you will have a trial, with evidence and witnesses and the opportunity to defend yourself. That is the difference between justice and revenge. We would not have given you a trial," Thexkal admitted. "If we had won, we would have simply killed any human leaders we captured." "I know," Rebecca said. "That is why you lost. The trial took 3 months. The evidence was overwhelming. Thexkal had ordered the attack on New Harmony. He had authorized the targeting of civilian populations. He had refused offers of surrender that might have saved lives. The tribunal, composed of judges from multiple species including humans, found him guilty of war crimes and crimes against genocide. The sentence was life imprisonment, not death. When asked why, the chief judge, a human named Robert Kim, explained, "We could execute him. It would be justified under our laws. But execution is easy. It ends the story. We want War Commander Thexkal to live. We want him to spend the rest of his life thinking about what he did, understanding the consequences of his actions, and perhaps eventually coming to terms with why he lost. That is a more meaningful punishment than death." Back on Earth, the first war memorials were completed. They were not triumphant monuments celebrating victory. They were somber walls listing names, parks for quiet reflection, and museums showing the reality of war. Each memorial included a quote from Ambassador Chen. "We won because we had to, not because we wanted to. Let us never forget the difference." Private James Chen visited the memorial in San Francisco, where his cousin's name was engraved in black. 5 years had passed since the end of the war. The Galactic Council chamber looked the same crystal architecture stretching kilometers in every direction. But everything else had changed. At the High Council table, where once only the oldest and most powerful civilization sat, there was now a human representative. Ambassador Sarah Chen had declined the position, recommending instead Admiral James Okoye, who had retired from military service, to take up diplomatic duties. The change in seating arrangements was symbolic of a larger shift. The Council had restructured its entire approach to military regulation. Species were no longer required to limit their defense capabilities. Instead, new protocols focused on clear rules of engagement, transparency in military deployments, and swift international response to acts of aggression. The regulations had teeth now, backed by the implicit threat that humanity would enforce them if necessary. The Thalorian cluster is reporting border tensions with the Margrave Union, James said, reviewing the morning's intelligence briefing. Both sides are mobilizing military assets, but they are following proper notification protocols. Crystalline thought. Ascending shimmered with colors that James had learned to recognize as relief. 5 years ago, such a conflict would have escalated without oversight. Now both parties understand that violations will be addressed by Council peacekeepers. Council peacekeepers, James noted, is an interesting way to say human enforcement fleet. You are not wrong, the Valorian admitted. No species wishes to face humanity in conflict. Your reputation precedes you, it was true. Humanity had become the galaxy's enforcer, not through choice but through necessity. When the Drac sovereignty had attempted to annex a neighboring system 2 years ago, a single human diplomatic ship had arrived and informed them that they had 24 hours to withdraw or face consequences. The Dracs had withdrawn within 6 hours. When pirates began raiding shipping lanes in the outer sectors, human hunter-killer drones had hunted them down with ruthless efficiency. The piracy stopped within weeks. Fear was an effective tool, but James understood what Ambassador Chen had warned about. Fear without trust was a fragile foundation. We need to discuss the cultural exchange program, James said. Earth is proposing an expansion. The program had started small, with a few hundred students from various species attending universities on Earth and human students studying on alien worlds. Now it encompassed thousands of participants, and the results were promising. Young Cathara, who had grown up learning to fear humans, were now studying alongside them, discovering that the same species capable of terrible warfare could also create beautiful art, complex literature, and profound philosophy. The program has the support of most council members, Crystalline Thought Ascending said. Though some species remain concerned about human cultural influence, they are worried we will corrupt their young people with our violent tendencies. James asked with a slight smile. Something like that. On the Cathara homeworld, now officially renamed Kethra, and administered by a coalition government that included both Cathara and human representatives, reconstruction continued. The cities that had been damaged in the war had been rebuilt, often with human assistance. The economy was slowly recovering, and a new generation of Cathara was growing up in a very different world than their parents had known. Sephiron, former military officer and now serving as the Cathara Minister of Reconciliation, walked through a memorial park in the capital city. The park honored both Cathara and human victims of the war, with no distinction between them and death. It had been controversial when first proposed, but Sephiron had pushed for it anyway. They died because of decisions made by leaders, he had argued. Soldiers on both sides, civilians on both sides. We honor them all or we learn nothing. A human woman was sitting on a bench near the memorial wall, staring at a name engraved in both Cathara script and English. Sephiron recognized her from briefings. Colonel Amanda Torres, who had led the invasion force 5 years ago. She visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the war's end. Colonel Torres, Sephiron said, approaching carefully. I did not expect to see you here. Amanda looked up, her eyes tired. I come every year. That name there, Corporal David Chen, he was in my unit. He died clearing a building in Kethral. He was 23 years old. I am sorry, Sephiron said. So am I. Amanda stood up. I killed a lot of your people, Minister. I followed orders and I did my job, but I still killed them. I thought coming here would help me make sense of it. 5 years later, I am still trying. War makes sense only to those who have never fought in one, Sephiron replied. I have learned that from studying human history. You have a philosopher, a man named Sherman, who said war is hell. He was correct. William Tecumseh Sherman, Amanda confirmed. He also said that war is cruel and you cannot refine it. We tried to refine it, we tried to make it civilized. Then the Cathara killed 300,000 of our people, and we remembered what war really is. They stood together in silence for a moment. Two veterans on opposite sides of a conflict neither had wanted. "Your people are afraid of us," Amanda finally said. "I can see it every time I visit. They are polite, they are cooperative, but they are afraid. I understand why, but I wish there was a way to change it." "Time," Saffron suggested, "and actions that build trust. You are here, after all. You could have stayed on Earth, enjoyed your victory, forgotten about us. Instead, you come back every year to remember our dead alongside your own. That means something." On Earth, in a small apartment in Chicago, James Chen had completed his transition back to civilian life. It had not been easy. The war had changed him in ways he was still discovering. He attended therapy twice a week, part of the mandatory program for all veterans. He had nightmares sometimes, seeing the faces of Cathara soldiers he had fought against, wondering if they had families, if they had been good people following bad orders. His therapist, Dr. Vasquez, had helped him develop coping strategies, but the real breakthrough had come when he started volunteering at a refugee center that helped Cathara civilians who had emigrated to Earth. There were not many, only a few thousand across the planet, but they needed support adjusting to human society. "Why did you come here?" James asked a young Cathara female named Shikala during one of their mentoring sessions. "After everything that happened, why would you want to live on Earth?" "Because Earth is where the future is," Shikala replied in heavily accented English. She was learning the language, struggling with the sounds that Cathara vocal cords were not designed to make. "My world is broken. We lost the war. We lost our pride. We lost our place in the galaxy. But Earth? Earth won and then chose not to destroy us. Earth gave us a future. I want to understand how a species can be so powerful and so merciful at the same time." James thought about that. Merciful was not a word he would have used to describe humanity's conduct of the war, but in the aftermath, in the choice to rebuild rather than obliterate, maybe mercy was the right word after all. "We are not as merciful as you think," he said honestly. "We did terrible things during the war." "I know," Shkala replied. "I have studied the history. I have seen the footage. But you also stopped. You won and you could have killed us all, but you stopped. That is the part I want to understand." In the Galactic Council, a new crisis was emerging. A species called the Vorn, from a distant sector that had limited contact with the Council, had begun expanding aggressively into neighboring territories. Early reports suggested they had advanced weapons technology and a militant culture that glorified conquest. "They have not yet attacked any Council members," James reported to the assembled delegates, "but their actions suggest they are testing boundaries much like the Cathara did 5 years ago." The chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered what had happened when the Cathara tested boundaries. "What do you recommend?" Crystalline Thought Ascending asked. "We send a diplomatic mission," James replied. "We explain the Council's rules and the consequences of violating them. We offer them the opportunity to join peacefully or to remain independent but respectful of our borders. And if they refuse, we make it very clear what will happen." "And if they do not believe your warnings?" a Malothian delegate asked. The Cathara did not believe. "Then they will learn the same lesson the Cathara learned," James said grimly. "But hopefully they are smarter." The diplomatic mission was led by a joint team of humans and Cathara, a symbolic choice that showed the galaxy how much had changed. Sephron represented the Cathara, and he brought with him recordings of the war, footage of the devastation, testimony from survivors. The message was clear. This is what happens when you challenge humanity. The Vorn leaders watched the presentations in silence. They were insectoid beings with compound eyes that reflected no emotion humans could read. But their translator rendered their final response clearly. "We understand. We will respect Council boundaries." The crisis was resolved without bloodshed. It was a small victory, but an important one. The galaxy was learning that humanity's threats were not bluffs, but also that humanity preferred peace when possible. Back on Earth, in a ceremony attended by representatives from dozens of species, the new galactic memorial was unveiled.